Welcome to Coddiwompling Along The Tao with Noel Eastwood. This is episode 19, the Chariot card. This card is the 7th card of the Tarot Major Arcana. It presents as one of the fundamental or foundational archetypes within human consciousness, the winner or the hero. On face value, it shows a richly dressed champion parading in a Roman Empire period triumph. His chariot is pulled by 2 horses, 2 lions, or in the Rider-Waite Smith deck, it's 2 sphinxes. If you examine the common theme of the hero's journey, be it in the many adventure books we read and the multitude of movies the hero has spawned, you can see how readily we embrace and even worship our winners, the heroes of our community. Is there something wrong in glorifying our heroes? Not at all. We need heroes. We need someone to pin our greatest hopes and unsatisfied wants onto. They carry our personal myths and our failed dreams. That gives them enormous power to manipulate their followers, those not mature enough to own these traits as their own. Here's the Rider-Waite Smith Chariot card. And this is where I want to show you. There's the stars in the curtains of his chariot, there's a star in his crown, and there's the warrior. So we have 3 layers. There's the first layer with the crown, the second layer, and this is the superego and spirituality. You know, they sort of blend together. Of course, when the superego gets out of control and turns into entitlement and justification for immoral acts and unethical behavior, then it's no longer spiritual, is it? Down the bottom, of course, is the animal. That's our animal nature. And in this card, it's black and white. The 2 animals that pull the chariot require someone with self-discipline to hold and direct them, to ensure neither pulls too strongly and thus causes the chariot to go off the narrow path of the mystic. In some card decks, the animals are the same colour and do not look any different to each other. In most others, there is a black animal, no doubt representing the forces of the id, that can sway the mystic or hero to go down the path of self-interest. The other animal, generally coloured white, represents forces of the superego that can sway the mystic to follow the path of excessive morality. One is the path of down-to-earth material gain like wealth and the dominance and repression of others for self-gain. The other path suggests that the practitioner has their head in the clouds, led by delusion and illusion, easily swayed to follow a false god, celebrity, politician, or some other form of hero worship. The 2 animals, one representing the stars of heaven, or the moralistic superego, at the top, the other represents the animalistic id of the deep unconscious, urges and instincts, or perhaps it is the power of libido and virility. An understanding of these forces is fundamental in understanding this card. Black versus white, positive versus negative, vice versus virtue, and the Charioteer represents the middle path balanced between them. So in the middle is the man, and in some cards it's actually the woman. 13th, 14th, 15th century, the very, very, very early tarot has the Empress, a female, and she has a scepter and her orb of rulership, and there's the 2 white horses, and there's the chariot. Our animalistic nature, Freud's id, needs control, self-control, which Freud called ego, and we learn self-control through proper upbringing and mature parenting in childhood. As mystics on the path of the spirit, we seek self-discipline in all things, be it eating properly, working responsibly, and engaging with others appropriately. This helps ensure that you handle the power of the deep unconscious correctly. But what about this Charioteer? Who is he? Ares, the Greek god of war? Or perhaps Mars, the Roman god of war? Both are wild, dominating, yet childlike, triumphant conquerors that ruled the warrior archetype. This is Thor. I think he's the god of thunder or something like that. But here we have the Aries rams. And that's just a stunning picture, isn't it? I love that one. Here is power to control the elements around the surrounding him and the elements within. And there's no difference between the two. I want you to note that in terms of colours, they're both the same. Whereas the previous one, there was the black and there was the white. The charioteer could also be the Greek god Helios, who drove his chariot pulling his son across the skies each day. Or perhaps it's Helios's son, Faithin, who drove the chariot to prove his manhood, but he couldn't control the powerful horses that his father could. Here is Faithin. So this is the free Golden Dawn chariot. So the Golden Dawn deck, drawn by an artist, I can't remember his name, but he's got it on the web, and that represents Faithin, who's jumped in his father's chariot to drag the sun along behind him across the heavens during the day, and he just could not control the animal nature, his own animal nature, we would say. The ego is the man in the middle, the charioteer. Freud and other humanistic psychologists clearly recognized that a balance between the forces of the id and the moral entitlement of the superego is necessary for stable mental health. Self-control comes from a strong ego, the ability to recognize the forces that pull us all over the place. The mystic learns to regulate their base urges, the higher morals, by applying self-control. This is the Nicholas Conver tarot deck, circa 17th century, so 1650, something like that. And here we have the chariot. Again, we've got the animalistic nature of man or humans is identical. So there's no discrimination between these two. It's just wild animal, the animal nature within. And there's the man that controls it, or your self-control, your ego and self-control, and there's the heaven, the stars. And we see a fellow that is probably a general, attired as a warrior with his scepter of control and dominance, of authority, and he is in a Roman Empire period triumph. And here we have happy and sad, a little bit like the Greek comedies or the Greek tragedies. This is the Noblet, Jean Noblet, again 1650s, so 17th century. In this particular Marseilles card, we've got different colours. We've got the crown with the pentagram. So now we're getting some Egyptian and some occultic influences. There's the sphinxes from Egypt. So we have elements from the Marseilles deck. And here we go. We've got a star up there. So now we're starting to see the influence of the superego, the ego, and the id. We could say that the Chariot card represents a balanced individual who recognizes their wayward id and superego forces, yet chooses to walk the middle way by setting boundaries and limits to their own behavior. When viewing this card, we could say in simpler terms that it represents a triumphant winner, someone who made it to the top. We, as tarot readers, are the fortunate witness of someone who is still in the early days of their success, a winner still naive to the ways and wiles of celebrity. This card depicts success, virility, and in some ways virtue and spirit. What does it represent for you on your mystic's path? It suggests that drive and success come with dedicated self-discipline. Living the way of the spiritual warrior is how you become the charioteer. Learning how to meditate, to walk, talk, and engage with others in a balanced manner are facets of the chariot archetype. Here we have Wheel of the Year Tarot, the Chariot, and this card reminds me very strongly of the Sun card, the archetype of the sun, which is the little boy on a white horse, and he's in a field of sunflowers. So here we have the charioteer, the fellow in here in his chariot, it's almost like he's bringing the sunshine and happiness to people. So once again, this is a triumphant card of happiness and joy. And my interpretation when I see this card in a reading or when I draw it for myself, it's a positive card. It's success. It's, the choices that you're making are positive and have a good chance of success. And if you want to access your inner Charioteer, your inner success archetype, then you would take your card, you would look at it and study it for a while, close your eyes, get the image and try and form that image inside your mind's eye, and do that several times. Check the image again, close your eyes, reproduce it in your inner world, maybe a third time, check the image again, close your eyes, and then you just sink into starting off at a mild level of trance, and slowly, as you're breathing in and out, slowly and gently, coming down, coming down, coming down, till you're sort of in there. And you might spend a minute, 5 minutes, 30 minutes in going in and out of trance, okay? This is how I operate when I do my scrying. This is the same process I'm describing to you. So if that's where above this line here is consciousness and below here is unconscious, then I'm do, boom. Now I'm in my unconscious, and then I will sort of weave in and out of consciousness. And that's how it helps by coming slightly out of consciousness. You remember what happened while you were deep in the unconscious. You're bringing the gems and the gold and the pearls up from the unconscious, and you can actually remember them. And sometimes I'll actually write it down or type it up on the screen if I'm sitting here in my chair. And then I'll go back in, down, boom. Weird things will happen, then with a bit of luck I'll come back with it. How would you interpret this card in a reading? I see it as positive, victory, a winner's card, but you could add a warning that winners need to be clear-headed, wise and humble, as well as powerful and successful. Okay, well, thank you for watching Coddiwompling Along the Tao, the Chariot of the Major Arcana. If you like what I do, please leave a comment. Enjoy your work as a tarotist, astrologer, as a mystic on the path. And thank you.